Hamish McKay, thank you for joining me, man.
It's good. It's good.
I'm going to start off with a quote that I saw on your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I did promise I was going to do a lot of exploration of the LinkedIn, and I thought this would be a good place to start it.
My whole life's online.
My mum and dad, who supported, connected, loved, and always told me that I had the potential to do anything, gave me that feeling. The confidence and courage to be unapologetically me and take big risks in pursuit of a dream.
Yeah.
Take me back to your early childhood.
Sums it up. Early, I mean, it depends how early you start. If we're looking at my earliest memories, it was being in primary school and definitely being a high achiever. I would, win running races, win tennis competitions, all rounder, that type of thing. And I definitely had I was intelligent. I was definitely intelligent. I did well in school, but at the same time, I probably had, people describe it as like having delayed gratification. There are kids who will do their homework before they have dinner or do their homework before they watch TV. And I was never really like that. I wasn't super disciplined, rigorous, hardworking. I was just a natural. And, that served me really well in primary school, naturally, because no one's that competitive and you can't study that much as a 7, 8, or 9-year-old, right? And then I remember when I moved off to high school, that became a lot more damning. And suddenly, I really wasn't doing my homework. I really wasn't that great of a kid. And, it was still fine. But there's this thing that is definitely drilled in my mind where mum and dad would always say, and also teachers would say it too, you have so much potential. You have so much potential. You could do so much. You have this natural ability. You have this knack. You're blessed. You're definitely gifted. And, whether or not I did have, luck of the draw, and I definitely think I did, it was a really powerful thing to say to a kid. And it's funny, I mean, when I was growing up, I found it really frustrating. I found it pressure. I found it, it made me feel like I wasn't good enough, or like I was, I'm not meeting my potential. I'm letting them down. And it was damning. It wasn't good. It didn't feel good. And I pushed back against it a lot. I got really, not good when I was 15, 16, 17, 18. Drugs, sneaking out, normal teenage stuff. A lot of teenagers did that. My friend group did that, but I was on the extreme end. And I never really felt like I was on the extreme because I had friends who were doing it, and they were doing it in a harmless way. But I was definitely doing it in a harmful way. I was really enjoying scratching the abyss and seeing how far you could push things out and take, not good risks. And that was a big part of my high school years, especially when I became a young adult, a teenager. Me and my parents didn't have a good relationship, particularly me and my mum. And, it was both sides on the coin. You had this kid who was really struggling with all sorts of different things. And you had these parents who knew you could be so much better. You've got everything inside of you. There's is it Morpheus, who's bend reality, that type of thing. That was what was drilled into me. And unfortunately, it took me until I was maybe 18, when I went to university, when I moved out of home, when I went independent, and when life and the future became a bit more serious and I started thinking about it. And I was lucky that I was able to flip a switch. And that's why, and that's built up over the last 4 years to where I am now. I'm 23. And that's why I post about that quote, that feeling, those words that mum and dad would drill into me growing up, because now I see it as a positive. It doesn't feel like pressure anymore. It feels like, man, you told me every single day, or at least it felt like every single day, that when you're 30, when you're 40, when you're 50, you'll be fine. There's just no way you don't do well in life, Hamish. You will be good. And if you want to get something, you'll get it. You'll set a goal, you'll achieve it. And that's how I feel now. I describe like what I put in that post. I often write content that picks up conversations that I have on a day-to-day basis. Oh, I'm like talking about this with my friend. It's clearly something interesting. It's an engaging conversation. I can share that in a written piece online. And I always have this conversation with people where I say, for the last 4 years, every single morning when I wake up, I know that I'm going to be okay in 10 years' time. Like, I'm going to get what I want. If I want to be successful, I'll be successful. If I want to retire, I'll retire. If I want to do X, Y, or Z, I will go out and do that, and it will happen for me. And I've realized now, as I, meet new people and I've moved to new countries, that not everyone thinks like that. And so that's why I thank my mum and my dad.
Your dad was a lawyer, correct?
Yeah.
He said to you, no, you said to him, I recall in another conversation, you said that you wanted to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And he said, no,
Yeah.
I don't think that's you. What do you think he would have seen in you to make him think like that?
I'm weird. Like, I'm not normal. I'm not normal in a lot of different, I mean, everyone's weird, but I would go crazy in a big firm, in a big organization, I think. I need to be able to be independent. I'm very independent. I need to be able to just go out and do things. I don't like plotting and taking meetings and doing things in this like really patient and get all stakeholders involved way. I like my gut. I like my gut a lot. And it's proven me well so far, fingers crossed, touch wood. But he said that to me because growing up, I was a real wheeler dealer. Like, I was buying clothes and selling them online. I was selling cans of Coke on the bus. I was selling lolly bags, all of these types of things, any way to make a buck. That was my personality. A hustler, pushing, like, enjoying transacting with people and bartering and all of that. And I think I also was like a bit of an adrenaline bunny. Not in the way of like skydiving and whatever, but just, those risks that I talk about and pushing the boat out and doing things in my own way. And I think when I sat down with him and we were at the dinner table and I was like, oh, what are you going to study? And I said, well, I really enjoy writing. I really enjoy speaking. Like, I like my English. It was my passion. And so I should be a lawyer. That's what a lot of the legal skills are, your English skills, and your research and everything. And he just was like, nah, like, you shouldn't, like, you won't like it. And he was definitely right. I mean, we joke now on the phone and when we're out for dinner and whatnot, and I go, oh, like, I can't imagine we're walking past Deloitte or PwC, and I'm just like, I couldn't fathom how I'd feel in that building. It would probably be really depressing for me. I'd probably be super anxious. I would be doing everything I could possibly do to try and stand out, and it would just be impossible, or it'd be too slow for me. When I was 19, I said I'm going to be a millionaire at 25. Like, why did I say that? Because I don't want to spend 10 years getting there. I don't want that. Like, I want to do it in 5. I want to do it in 3. I want to do it in 2. And the thought of working at a law firm and waiting 20 years or however long it takes to become partner, I just don't have the patience for that. I don't have the patience for that.
When I was 15, I learned how to wake up at 4 a.m. and torture myself working toward a goal. How has that served you and where you are now?
It's everything. I love talking about rowing. That was like, that's the other side of the coin to my child. And this is actually a really good way to describe who I am as a person. Even while I was like this bad kid in high school, I was rowing at the time. And I started rowing when I was 15, and I fell in love. I fell in love with the game.
Why is that?
It was pure inputs and outputs. I was good at it. It was intense. It was probably the most intense sport you could pick at that age.
I was gonna say, you could push yourself.
There's very few sports that you do as a teenager where if you don't train 12 times a week, you'll lose. Like, you'll never be on the podium if you don't train 12 times a week at rowing. And that's 15-year-olds. It's insane. And I love that because I know I'm capable of that, and that doesn't scare me. And I like intensity. I like all in. I like really hard work, and that's goal driven. And I enjoy this. And I think about business this way a lot. I enjoy this, this process, these things that you do where you can set a B point, for you, 1 million subscribers, 100,000 subscribers, and you can think about what the journey from A to B might reasonably look like. And then you just go out and you do it. And then it happens because it's inputs and outputs. And for rowing, it was like, well, for me, when I started at 15, I said, I want to represent New Zealand at the Junior World Championships. And then after that, whatever, like maybe you look to the Olympics. But I wanted to represent New Zealand, my country, in my last season. And so what do you need to do? You need to wake up at 5 a.m. You need to get into a single scull. You need to train. You need to go to the gym. You need to put on weight. You need to eat well. You need to stop drinking alcohol. All of those things. And it's a black and white question. Do you want to do that or not? And when I say yes, I do it. I show up. Like, I don't say yes and then fall off the bandwagon after 6 months. When I set a B point and I think about the journey and I like the look of the journey and I say, yeah, I'm going to do that journey, I fucking do it. And I didn't make junior world champs, but I trialed and I was the top sweep horseman in the country at the time. We did it. We did it. And how that served me in life now, I mean, it's everything. It's everything. When I was 19, I said, I want to be a millionaire at 25. And I looked at the A to B and it was, well, you can't work at PwC. You will probably need to start a business to generate that type of income. And I said, fuck it. Like, yes, that's what I'll do. And I started working at startups. I started talking to people, throwing myself into situations or environments where I was surrounded by people who were doing those things and trying to osmosis and ask them questions and be a sponge until that was me, until I became that guy. And I'm very lucky now to have, started that company, to be on the journey, to be, pretty like on the cusp of it, and sitting at dinner table with the guys that I met 3 years ago now, when I was a young, energetic kid that moved to Melbourne and would tell people this goal, tell people that I'm on this journey. And they were probably like, sure, kid. Like you don't just earn $1 million in your early 20s. It just doesn't happen. Like, what are you going to do to make that happen? But I told them because I know I'm one of those people where if I tell people my goals, I don't get the dopamine hit and then I fall off the bandwagon. Like, when I tell people my goals, it's like, I'm telling you this because I want you to help me get there, because I'm going to get there. You're going to see me be disciplined. You're going to see me show up. And when you see that happen, you're going to help me get there. And, we sit at dinner table now and they're just like, man, even in the last 6 months, you've come a seriously long way. And it's like, yeah, imagine how fucking awesome we're going to be in 12 months time, in 10 years. And that excites me.
I love that.
Yeah.
You used the word bad kid before.
Yeah.
How do you balance being a bad kid with that intensity of what you were doing with rowing? And what would you define under the word bad kid?
Yeah. On the balancing note, and I'm still like this, where if I'm throwing myself at something head first and it's taking up all of my mental energy, whenever there's a lapse in time or a chance for respite, I throw the house at it. And I'm still like that. I will work an 80-hour week, and then on the weekend, I might have a massive blowout.
Still?
Still. Yes, still. Like, still. There's still all of these different flaws that exist there.
Is that an escape thing, or what is it?
I just like to have fun.
Yeah, okay.
I like to have fun, and I struggle with, like, I'm not a monk. I'm really disciplined, but I'm also not. I'll be disciplined for those 80 hours, for the 100 hours, but in the last 20 or the last 10 of the day or the week, whatever, I'll be on the extreme end again, just like I was as a kid. Whereas I think most people, my flatmates, people that I know, whatever, they'll be more consistently undisciplined throughout the entire week, and their extreme isn't as extreme as mine. And that's what I would describe as, that was what it was like growing up. And I went through so many different phases as a kid. I'm a hyper obsessive person, probably ADHD, all these different types of things. But rowing when I was growing up, when I was 15, I wasn't that crazy. Like, I was 15 years old. How bad can you be? But I was just throwing myself at rowing. I was probably falling asleep during some classes because I was training so much. But then when I was 16 and I started drinking and going out and all of these different types of things, that's where it worsened. And shockingly, so did my performance. But whenever I fall off, and it kind of comes back to that point of like what your parents are saying to you, whenever I fall off on something that I care about and something that I want on that journey, I'm really quick to flip the switch. And I remember like noticing that my results weren't that good in my second season of rowing. I didn't win a medal. I didn't win a gold medal like I did last year. The next season I didn't drink anything but water. Like I didn't even have like soft drinks or lollies because I was just like, I can't, which is so obscene to think about as a 17-year-old, to be training 12 times a week, refusing to drink alcohol, not even like a glass of wine with dinner when we were out for dinner. Like I was like, nah, I won't have any wine. One glass won't kill you, Hamish. But I was just like, no, I won't have any wine. And while the chaos there or the imbalance wasn't going out or smoking cigarettes or any of these types of things, it was probably more on my social life and my mental health. Like if I wasn't training, I was kind of at home sleeping or reading and feeling a little bit depressed. And I couldn't get myself out of it because I'd been consuming all of my willpower on training towards a goal. And yeah, it's fluctuated through the years.
Does something come to mind as a negative of that? I know you've probably just described a few there, but that extreme mindset that you have, is there a story or a reference that comes to mind straight away?
It's hard to think about a story. I mean, there's so much.
It's accumulation.
Yeah, there's so much. There's so much. Like, there's cheating on a partner. There's like dangerous situations you might be on in a weekend. There's just like not acting morally or like in line with your values. And I think it is an accumulation though. I think it's an anxiety and a frustration that you can't be perfect. And I think I'm still trying to find, I don't want to toy with the extreme. I don't want to, I don't want to feel chaotic. And I know that I'm not chaotic, but that's how I describe it because like, even though 99% of the time people are like, how the hell do you do all of this? How do you work so hard? How do you keep showing up in this way? I just think about the 1% where I don't. And I don't know whether I need to like toll it down elsewhere so that I get the balance back. I actually don't think that's the answer. I think it's just purely a habitual thing for me. It's that accumulation.
Are you still chasing perfectionism then?
I think I'm just chasing my goal. I think I'm chasing my goal and I'm chasing perfectionism as it comes to like, what's the word? I'm like, I intellectually masturbate is something that I always talk about. Like I read a lot of books on psychology and I think a lot about happiness and your values. And, I went to therapy and all of these different types of things because I'm obsessed with being mentally well and being wise and learning a lot and understanding a lot and being self-aware and compassionate and all these things that like we should really admire in people. And I think that's what I obsess over. And, to direct that question in a way that you maybe weren't expecting, like that focus and intensity on being self-aware and understanding how my brain works and how other people's brains work, the negative consequence to that is you're extremely isolated. Like I just don't feel like I relate to many people at all anymore. And I walk past, like I reckon the biggest consequence of that is that I'll walk past a pub and I'll see a whole bunch of guys drinking beers, and I just think like, I don't have that. I don't have that, and I'm also terrified that I'll never have that. Because I'm on this journey, and it's a really independent journey, and I haven't met people that are also on that journey that still blend with all the other parts of your personality, right? Like I'm not necessarily gonna go hang out and at Cambridge University and be with all these intellectuals and get along with them. Like it's not all that I am. So yeah.
Well, you've met me.
Yeah, there you go.
Me.
Add another one to the roster.
When I was 17, I developed the superpower of defining a dream outcome and doing the work to achieve it 100%, 110% of the time.
Yeah, that's that A to B. That's that A to B. I talk about this so much. It's my one biggest piece of advice is, especially in your early 20s, think about different outcomes for your life and on what kind of time horizon. Understand and, write down maybe if you have to, what you would reasonably have to do to achieve that outcome, and look at the paper and think, do I want to do that? Because I remember, when I was at university and I expressed to my friends that I wanted this goal, they'd say, that'd be flipping awesome. Like, I'd also love that. And I'd go, well, how do you think you'll get there? And do you want to do that? And often the answer is no, which is so fair. Just so fair. I wouldn't recommend my lifestyle to anyone. But I like it. It's for me. And I could have set a B point that was wildly different. I could have set a B point that was more aggressive. I could have set a B point of I want to build a publicly listed company. I want to try and be a billionaire. I want to be in Australia's top rich list. And, whether it's the outcome, like what that outcome looks like, or it's the journey that gets there, all of that's unattractive to me. And so I don't go and do it. I change my B point. But it's really fun to toy with different future states. Think about what you have to do to get there, and then decide if you want to do that. And it's amazing because you'll just write things off. You'll write things off, and then you know what you have to do.
We tend to think that the future happens later, but we're creating in our minds every day. When the present falls apart, so does the future we had associated with it. And having the future taken away is the mother of all plot twists.
I like it.
You told me that. That was from a book that you recommended.
Really?
Laurie.
Gottlieb. Yeah. Can you read it to me one more time? I'll listen to it more.
We tend to think that the future happens later, but we're creating it in our minds every day. When the present falls apart, so does the future we had associated with it. And having the future taken away is the mother of all plot twists.
Yeah. Yeah. It pairs so well with something I was just reading on the way here, The Road Less Traveled, great book. And it was talking about discipline and how you need to be future looking. And I think a lot of people really struggle with future looking. That's one of the things that I've learned. You need to be focused on the future and understand where you're heading so that you can go on that path, right? But at the same time, you need to balance it with being able to be present and spontaneous in, the right ways. And that's something that I think I really struggle with, where I'm so forward-looking, so future-focused, to the point where, we describe that we're building a $20 million software company because that was our outcome. We don't want to do more, we don't want to do less. We're building a $20 million company. And to the point where, that's in the far future. But I know what I want to do after that too. And after that, perhaps. And I'm always just thinking, what's after the next thing? What's after the next thing? And I think that's amazing. I think it's a superpower. I think it's really special. But at the same time, the spontaneity, the present, the celebrating what's happening and things like that is challenging. And I mean, to Laurie's quote, which is another great book, my favorite book, I've been fortunate to not experience that many plot twists. There've been some, but the rowing thing was one of them. But invariably, they've always been shiftable to be really satisfied with where you're at. Because at the end of the day, if you set a really aggressive goal and you go through all of this work together, even if you don't get there, you'll probably still look at yourself and you go, man, I improved a lot. And that's something that you can feel proud of no matter what your outcome ended up being. If this company failed, I'd just look at myself and go, wow.
What a journey.
What a journey. Look at what you achieved. Look at what you built. What you learned about yourself. I didn't know. 2 years ago, I had no idea that I could stand at a desk and work for 16 hours nonstop and not pick up my phone. It is insane the amount of focus and it's insane how hard I can work. I didn't know that. And now I know that when I go and do something else that I really love, like if I can put in that same amount of input, the output's awesome. And you learn all sorts of these different types of things. It's like me and my brother are really close, my oldest brother. And I remember we were sitting down, we're having a glass of whiskey after going out for dinner together, and we'd always have these like really amazing dinners and chats, and just like we got to know each other really well as adults. And I remember talking about how I approach every year and how I try and stack just like one improvement. You know, last year it was all about reading and intellectualizing and upskilling and becoming more knowledgeable. And this year it was more about connecting with family and building some strong relationships and all the rest, because I hadn't focused on that. And I remember just like telling my brother that I do this every year, and these are the things that I've stacked over my lifetime. And he just said, you're going to be the sickest dude in 10 years. Like, just think about where you'll be in 10 years. And I really look forward to that. I just think if I'm doing all this work now, I'm just going to keep improving, and I'll be a really good person, you know, and that makes me happy.
I heard something the other day. It's like confidence isn't established by shouting affirmations in the mirror. It's about building a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are.
Exactly. Showing up every day.
I heard a question the other day, and it was, does the depth of your consciousness cause you to suffer? And I can't help but ask it to you.
Does the depth of your consciousness
cause you to suffer?
I honestly don't know how to answer that. I'm like trying to interpret the question. How do you think that? What do you think that means?
I think it means exactly what you said before. Like you go out and you look at other people.
Yeah.
That's what I think it means.
I feel that a lot. It's funny though. I think a lot of people in their 20s feel really lonely. You know, it seems like there's like this like loneliness pandemic going on. Yeah. And so I know I'm not an outlier. There's a lot of people going through it. But I guess people are going through it for different reasons. And for me as a you know, for how I've approached life and the journey that I'm on, yeah, like I think all of the work that I did, all of the things that I shout and preach and focus on and think about and the conversations that I have, there's a lot of suffering that pairs alongside it. You know, that isolation, that distance, that feeling of being unrelatable. You know, my previous partner, we ended up breaking up, and the emotion in the room that we both acknowledged was just like, this just isn't fun anymore. And while it was part of just like a lack of chemistry, it was also, I'm just not that fun right now. You know, most of the conversations I have are fairly intense. I struggle to relax. I struggle to, you know, focus on what we're saying, live in the moment, be spontaneous. I really like these deep conversations, and, you know, deep conversations are amazing. I know that people enjoy talking to me in different settings and whatnot, but if that's all you're having, you know, you need some respite. And I think that's my suffering. And that's something that, you know, maybe that will be this year's or next year's rather, focus will be, you know, layering in some more fun, some more character. Like, yeah, you can work really hard, but you can also have more color and personality to who you are.
You're speaking to me.
Yeah.
Seriously, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a bit older than you, but I definitely resonate with what you're going through.
Yeah.
Because I feel it.
Yeah.
It's hard to go somewhere, and like, even just I went to a wedding not long ago, and I described it to my mum as if I was there, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm just so elsewhere. It's not funny.
Yeah.
And I just really, really struggle to, even just like a how are you conversation. Yeah, I'm good. How's work?
Yeah.
You know,
I think a lot of people go through it. I mean, one of the things that I've realized getting closer with my parents is that they have those interactions all the time, you know. They're at dinner parties or birthday parties or whatever it might be, and, you know, you have to have those meaningless conversations because you're all in a room, together, and I think one of the things that probably I struggle with, and maybe you relate to this as well, is just like the amount of pressure that you place on a social setting or the conversation that you're having. Like, not every conversation needs to be amazing. You don't need to make a big impression on everybody you meet. You don't need to get along with everybody you meet. You know, you are who you are, and we all are so different in so many different ways, and it's all just about finding a tribe. And I remember talking with my therapist about this, and I'd moved to Melbourne and I was really struggling with loneliness. And this was like the majority of what we talked about during that time. And she just said, look, Hamish, like, you've been here for 12 months and you still haven't found your tribe, and you're upset about not finding your tribe. She said, like, do you know how hard that is though? Like, to just go out and, like, the amount of different social settings you have with new people is drastically smaller when you're in your 20s, because you don't have school, you don't really have sports teams unless you go and engage with them. You don't have university, you don't have living quarters altogether. Like, you need to go out and find those people. And that's why, like, run clubs popped off and all these different kinds of things, because people show up to their hobbies in a communal setting, and then you'll invariably meet people that are like-minded and like the same things as you. And but finding a tribe is like it's a dream. And it's probably, I don't know, what's harder, finding your tribe or building a $20 million software company? You know, maybe both take 3 years.
Find the others. Admit it, you aren't like them. You're not even close. You may occasionally dress yourself up as one of them, watch the same mindless TV shows as they do, maybe even eat the same fast food sometimes. But it seems like the more you try to fit in, the more you feel like an outsider, watching normal people go about their automatic existence. For every time you say club passwords like "have a nice day" and "weather's awful, hey," you yearn inside to say forbidden things like "tell me what makes you cry," or what is deja vu for? Face it, you even want to talk to the girl in the elevator. But what if the girl in the elevator and the balding man who walked past your cubicle at work are thinking the same thing? Who knows what you might learn from taking a chance on a conversation with a stranger? Everybody carries a piece of the puzzle. Nobody comes into your life by mere coincidence. Trust your instincts, do the unexpected, find the others.
Yeah.
I heard that the other day and it resonated with what you were saying, so I dug it up.
Yeah. I like it. I mean, I think people attract people, and people have an energy surrounding them. And similar to that confidence point, I just feel like if I become that amazing person, and in 2, 3, 10 years time, you know, other amazing people will gravitate. And you obviously have to go out there and seek it. You know, you got to be a bit of like a heat-seeking missile. But you do like, you need, it's the whole saying of like, you need to love yourself before you can love others, and all of those types of things. Like, you need to do your work first, and then go out and meet those people. Otherwise you'll burn relationships, so you'll find that you gravitate towards the wrong types of people, and after 2 years you've become like relatively less interested in them, and you realize that that's not my tribe. Because you weren't who you were. Like, you were playing a game, you were a facade, you were being a chameleon. And I mean, to take that into my life and the experiences that I've had, and this is something that I talked about in therapy as well. When I was in high school, I had a group of friends, I had a big group of boys, and I loved them. We were amazing friends, we had a lot of fun. And then suddenly I was in my final year of high school. It was like really the last 2 years of high school. And suddenly I found like I no longer had a best friend in that friend group. I no longer was that close with anyone. I no longer really enjoyed hanging out. I felt really different. And I ended up dropping out of high school and moving to university, because I realized that I just wasn't having fun there anymore. I didn't really have any friends. I had friends. I was in this group of people. It looked like I had friends, but I didn't have friends, because I'd changed, or more so I'd become closer to who I am. And I realized that, you know, if I was to reevaluate my friend choices, I wouldn't pick them. We just don't get along. And I went to university, and I had very similar experiences with lots of different people. And I remember when I first showed up, I was just like so energetic, so full of life, like a real life of the party character. And after a couple years, I like completely burnt out. Like, I started contracting, and I started becoming more introspective, and I was just different. Like I was more who I was again. I stopped chameleoning. I stopped trying to be like everyone else I was surrounding with and fit in. And the amazing thing was there that, you know, there were a group of people that I don't know whether they changed with me or probably more so we kind of almost got even closer after I became who I was, after I became more Hamish, and I stopped trying to be something I'm not. And I keep having these experiences where I'll go into a new situation, I'll meet a new group of people, and I'll be a certain type of character for 6 or 12 or 24 months or whatever it might be. And then I immediately, I lose those friends. I lose those friends because I wasn't being myself. And one of the things that I really like about myself now on that quote is that I don't play a facade anymore. I don't like when I'm at a bar and I get introduced to someone and we're talking as friends, like I don't try and impress you. I don't try and gel to your needs. I just be who I am, and I hope that like we get along. And if we don't, all good. Like you can still have a great conversation. But I don't need to be a best buddy. You know, you don't need to be best buddies with everyone. You don't need to make that huge impression. And you'll find that when you are like that, when you meet the people that you do get along with, you make a far greater impression because it's natural. And people have described me as like when you walk, like you have, like people say, you know, in different rooms, in different settings, you seem to have this real aura of confidence. And like, while I am a confident person, I think a lot of that is just like I'm very comfortable with myself. And I've had friends describe me in that way, that it's like you're super comfortable with who you are. Like you are who you are. And I love that. I think it's the greatest compliment that you could ever receive.
Was there a time in your life when you weren't as confident?
Yeah, I think more so I was aggressively confident because I was insecure. You know, like I was putting on a show. I was driving around a big bloody Toyota SUV thing to compensate for the fact that I was a really insecure person and I was anxious, and I had all of these worries and concerns of not being good enough and not fitting in and not being cool or whatever it might be. So I was loud. I was really loud and boisterous and all those things, which I'm just not. Like I've just learned that I'm not that guy. I'm extroverted, but I'm not that extroverted. And the confidence thing, like the lack of confidence would really show out at certain times.
How so?
Just like crying, anxiety attacks, like confiding things to partners and friends, and like in real deep emotional lows, you know, all of that, those type of things, which don't happen to me anymore. I remember being at a New Year's festival, and you know, we'd been drinking through the day. It was New Year's Eve, and we were listening to a great artist. Sun was shining, Gisborne, New Zealand, and I just like started bawling my eyes out and freaked out, just like for no reason. Like just full on anxiety attack around all the people that I love. And like, you know, we all go sit down on the hill and getting comforted, and my girlfriend's super concerned and all these types of things. And I'm just like, I'm aggressively crying. I'm bawling my eyes out. And I just had no idea why. I said, no idea why.
Do you know why now?
Sort of. I mean, it's kind of hard to, there's lots of different hypotheses, but I think it was just a culmination of putting on a show for 4 days and just not being who I am, and being tired of trying to be someone I'm not, and realizing that I'm actually not super happy. Like, I'm a fraud. I don't have values. And I definitely didn't realize it at the time. I just put it down to like, oh, I have anxiety. But it was definitely, you know, there's a difference between like being diagnosed with anxiety and having anxiety and feeling anxious. And the reality was, like, I was just feeling extremely anxious because I didn't like who I was. And I was unhappy. And at the time where I should have been at my happiest, I was bawling my eyes out because I was not as happy as everyone else was. I was the complete opposite. I wanted to go home. You know, I didn't feel like celebrating the new year. I didn't feel like celebrating all of this love and joy. I felt like going home and having an introspective moment and feeling upset and toying with an abyss of depression kind of thing.
Do you think you were depressed?
There were times I don't know. I've had such interesting experiences with that feeling. I don't think I was depressed. I mean, I had energy. I could get up in the morning. I could talk with people. I just think I was really lost. And I think a lot of people are really lost. But because of who I am and how much I think and all of that, like everything I read and just how I engage with the world and how I look at the future and how I'm always trying to progress, when I feel really lost, like I embrace that feeling and I weep. And, you know, I don't hide from it. I don't think this is normal. I think this is really unnormal. I need to solve this problem. Like, I can't just be lost. And I think that's how I felt. Like it was, this sucks. Like, I'm acknowledging it and I need to change it. And that's going to be really hard and that's scary and frightening. And why am I like this? Why am I different to everyone else? Everyone else seems to not feel like that, or at least not express that they feel like that, or at least not feel upset that they feel lost. Like, it's like, I can't understand how some people can feel like they're just going through the motions and be content with that. Like, oh, it ruins me. I have to feel like I'm progressing. I can't sit still. I'll ruin myself. My mental health will go out the door. You know.
Even now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really happy now. Like, I'm great. I've got concerns and I've got anxieties, but like on a real note, I'm really happy. Like, I'm a genuinely happy person. I love who I am. I love who I've become. I love who I'm going to become. And I often like pretense that with, sometimes I'll say things and I'll describe what I'm doing and I'm like, I say that I'm arrogant. And, there's a scale, right, of confidence and self-love and arrogance. And I feel like if arrogance is here and confidence is here and the middle is like maybe where you should be, I'm like just a little step towards arrogance, Like, I definitely acknowledge it, but the reality is the majority of me, the sum of my being is I'm happy and I like who I am and I know that, and that gives me joy. And yeah.
Things like loneliness and setting healthy boundaries were the first struggles that I tackled. Self-love too.
Yeah.
What did that look like?
I mean, that's still the struggle, right? That's the extremity. That's the imbalance that exists in my life. Healthy boundaries is one of the first things that my therapist said to me. She said, people underestimate that when you move to a new country, you move out of home, you're on your own. Like, you're in an environment where for the first time there are no boundaries being set for you, apart from maybe like societal laws and regulation, right? Don't rob things, don't murder people, that type of stuff. But what time you get up, what food you eat, how much you exercise, what you do for work, what you do in your spare time, the conversations you have, how you treat people, that's on you, buddy. And I really struggle. I think everyone probably does, because it's a hard thing to do, and I still struggle with it. But I really struggled initially with setting healthy boundaries, setting boundaries and sticking to them, and setting things that fit who you are as a person. For example, telling that story of like potential extremities. I could set a boundary of, I'm not going to drink alcohol. I'm never going to smoke weed. I'm never going to smoke a cigarette. Like, that's not okay. for me, it's probably an unhealthy boundary. Like, at least with the amount of intensity that I'm throwing to work, I need some push and pull. I need some flex. I need some release, and it shouldn't be the extreme, which is maybe how I engage with it or have engaged with it in the past. It should just be enough, right? Like, you can still do things, you can still have fun, you can still like do something spontaneous, but you don't need to push the boat out that far. You can just like do them at a healthy level,
Of course. Have you gone back and tried to figure out why you weren't happy with yourself at that low stage?
I mean, one of the low stages that I haven't spoken about is, and it was during that rowing season. It might have been the time when I stopped drinking and doing sip and fuzzy drink and all these things. But I remember I hit the real like threshold of that imbalance when I was doing the sneaking out, when I was like smoking cigarettes. I was drinking a lot. I wasn't treating people super well. Like I was just not a good kid. Like I should have been the person that you'd want your son to hang out with, but I wasn't anymore. Like I definitely should be that person. I think I'm that person now, but I wasn't then, which is a real shame. And there was this point where me and mum just like burst. Like it got really bad. And it just like completely spiraled me out, where I like shut myself off entirely from the world because I felt like a demon. Like I was not cool. I was not okay. Like you were a terrible person, Hamish. Like that was my mindset as a 16-year-old. I was 16 and I thought I was a terrible human being, like scum of the earth, like non-deserving of existence. And, it was exaggerated because I was so young and like it was a childish brain, right? But, I remember I spiraled into this thing that at the time I described as depression, where for 12 months, I would wake up, I'd go to school, I'd read my book on the bus, I wouldn't talk to anyone, I'd go to class, I'd try and read through class, I'd sleep through some classes, I'd read my book. At lunchtime, I'd go to the library. I wouldn't hang out with my friends anymore. I'd go to the library and I'd read my book. I'd go to class, I'd go home and I'd read my book, and then I'd fall asleep on the couch until dinner time, have dinner, go to my room, fall asleep, read my book. Like, I would probably have less than 10 conversations a day for a year. And I just didn't express it really to anyone. And I was really upset. I was writing these poems. I was doing all these like, I was doing the classic thing that like kids do, where I was hyper obsessive with depression, and I was listening to sad music and indulging in it and enjoying the feeling of being depressed and like embracing it.
What were the poems about?
Suicide. Yeah. Like one of the distinct memories of that time was like there being methylated spirits in a cabinet in the house, and knowing that if you drank methylated spirits, you'd die. That was like an obsession that I'd write about in poetry, terrible poetry.
But you said you didn't have depression.
Well, I don't think I did. I mean, I was like, it's a hard thing to describe. I found that I was like immature, and me and my brother both talk about this a lot, where depression is like being sad is a really comfortable feeling. Like it's really easy to be sad. And I just like embraced it wholly, and we describe it as like toying with the abyss, like seeing how sad you can get, how much like sadness can I express and feel. And it's really comfortable because it's a feeling that you're familiar with, and it doesn't require much work to be sad. It requires literally zero work to be sad. And I just like embraced that for 12 months and did absolutely nothing. And when eventually like it culminated, and I told my mum like I'm depressed, and, all of those potentially dangerous things to my body got removed from the house. Like it continued on for 6 months. I went to therapy as a kid, and then one morning I just woke up and I decided to be happy again. Like, that's why I don't describe it as depression, because I was going to therapy and I was doing all these things, and I just remember there was some point where just like a light bulb switched, and I was like, oh, I don't want to be like this anymore. Like, I don't want to be writing sad poems. I don't want to be antisocial. I want to be happy. I want to go run around in sports fields and have friends and have a relationship with my parents. And I just changed. And that's why I don't describe it as that, because I don't think that's how that works.
Would you say you're very close with your parents now because of what you went through?
Oh,
there?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we could have been otherwise, but it took a long time after that to get close to my parents. I've only been close to my parents for, really close to my parents for 2 years now. When I moved to Melbourne, finally moved out of home, and I describe it as like I was in Melbourne and I didn't have that great a relationship. We'd never talked about what happened and like forgave and loved and discussed it and all the hard times that we had. And I just remember thinking, do I want family to be important to me? Because at the time, like being brutally honest, I felt like it wasn't. I'm sure it was deep down, but I'd always described it as like, that whole independence thing. I just remember thinking, do I want that? Do I want to be like that? Do I want to have a great relationship? And the answer was obviously yes. So I invested into the relationship and I phoned them and I gave them energy and I always had time for them. And funnily enough, they gave the exact same energy back because I was giving it to them, and then this amazing relationship blossomed, and now we're the bestest of friends. Like I've never loved anyone so much. I've never been so proud of anyone so much. I've never wanted to build an even deeper connection with anyone so much as I do like my mum and dad. And it's like it's a crazy thing to think that it was so bad, not all that long ago.
And what you might be brushing off as a minor feeling is actually a heavy load that you could take off your back if you just took that small step.
Yeah. Yeah.
How bad was it, do you think?
When I was 16? I didn't have anything to be upset about apart from who I was. There was nothing to be sad about apart from being a bad person. Apart from all of the mistakes that I'd made, all of the bets that I didn't make to be a good person, right? Like none of the actions existed. All I'd done was like bad. And how I thought and how I treated and how I acted, all of these different types of things. And so for me, it was the small step to just be a good person. And I find that good people are pretty damn happy because they love themselves, And so that was the small step. It was like, well, if you're depressed, if you're feeling depressed because you don't like who you are, you need to figure out what kind of person would you love that fits you and go out and be that person. And that's what happened. I didn't make those same mistakes, or at least to like a significantly lesser degree. And I got happy again. And I think that was the big learning out of it, was just to never put yourself in a situation where for an extended period of time you're being a bad person, because it will just ruin you. And I never want to go through that period of time ever again. To that point of like, were you depressed during university? There were moments of sadness, and it was always after I'd done something that I didn't like, that was against who I wanted to be. And I still have those moments now. We're flawed. I still do things and I'm like, man, I don't want to be that person. And it makes me sad. And so I don't do it again until I do. And then I don't do it again until I do,
With all of what you just said, is it still hard to acknowledge the things that you do like about yourself?
No, I've really developed, like an ability to self-love and to write nice things in a journal and to express pride to people in conversations, which is a really interesting skill. Like it's not often that you talk with a friend and they go, oh, like I'm so proud of how I did during that presentation, or how I treated that person or I handled that conversation. Like I'll have those conversations a lot. And I think it's part of the practice. It's part of the practice is like expressing that and affirming it.
The 18-year-old me who wrote big goals in his diary would be so proud.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Man, like I'm a really self-critical person, but like looking back, I just think you were so lost. You were so lost, and you had so much potential, and you weren't realizing it, and you wanted to realize it. And I think 18-year-old looking at me now is like, you're getting the absolute maximum out of this gift of life. Like you're doing the right things. You're taking the right actions. You're being intentional. Like bravo. Like pat yourself on the back because you're being intentional with your life every single day, like without fail. And that's like that word intentional is the exact word that I both use when I remember, when people ask you like what 3 words sum you up or whatever, it's an impossible question to answer. And I remember I said 3 words, I can't remember what they were to a partner at the time. And she said, I'd use the word intentional to describe you. And it was like this light bulb moment of like, oh yeah, like that's the word. That's that goal setting. That's that writing big goals in the diary. And that's that execution of doing it and not living life in a day-to-day, in a going by the motions type of way. It's like, I want to get the absolute maximum out of this opportunity. And I'm not a profit maximum. I'm not a fitness maxi guy. I'm not like, I'm not trying to get the absolute most out of these resources. I'm trying to get the absolute maximum out of like my mental health. I just want to be like as happy, as secure, as good a partner, as good a father, as good a friend, as good a son, brother, as I like possibly can be. Like I just want to be a really good, happy, healthy person. That's my North Star. And that self-love thing, like I love that about myself. I love that was the decision that I made. I love that I didn't decide to, like I love that my goals aren't to be a billionaire or to whatever. Like my goal is just to be like flipping awesome. Someone that people want to hang out with, someone that people find inspiring and motivating and energizing and a light of a room and all of those types of things. And that's the journey that I'm on.
You spoke earlier before about things that still concern you, though, like with how you are now. Do they pale in comparison to the things that concern you as when you were younger? Or are they just different?
I think it's like the lingering troubles, If you've got a whole cake of crap, a whole cake of shit that you don't like about yourself. And
what are they?
Oh, so many different things. So many different things. And I cut out a whole bunch of slices and let someone else eat them. Like I threw them in the bin, I got rid of them, and maybe there's like the frosting left. And that's the work. And there'll always be some frosting to lick off the plate. Like it's never ending.
I was going to say, yeah.
It will never end. And that's good. Like no one likes, I don't know, someone who's perfect. Like I don't think God had many good friends. I don't know.
It's hard to look. It's hard to think. And you wonder whether it's just people that think deeply like you as to critically analysing your life and figuring out the things you don't like about yourself.
It's balance, man. Yeah. It's balance. It's that whole thing of, enjoying the present and being spontaneous and not always being like deep and critical thinking, because there's more to life than perfectionism. There's a hell of a lot more to life than perfectionism. And like just do things that feel good. And if there's like maybe a negative connotation to them, or for whatever reason you feel negative about it the next day or you feel guilty, just realize that we're all just living in a world that has been made up for us and we've been told things and we've shaped this existence. And it's not our job to live in it. It's the way that it is. it's like our job to bash around the walls a little bit, like figure out what feels good and like change it and improve it and all these types of things. This is like taken from an amazing Steve Jobs quote, "The Secrets of Life." And he applies it to entrepreneurship. And I think about it a lot in terms of starting companies and having ideas, but it also applies to how you live your life. You know, you may have grown up and someone told you that X or Y or Z was bad. What do they know? You know, they're no smarter than you or I. Like, you can poke life and something may pop out the other end and you may like it. And like, that's the joy. Like, don't just live in the world the way that it is. Otherwise, like, your kids will be like you and all these different types of things, and they'll experience the same type of negative emotions that we have. I hope that like my kids have a better childhood than I did, and their kids have a better childhood than I did, and we get closer and closer to discovering like what the maximum is.
Do you find it hard to listen to people that try and give you advice as to how to live your life, such as, you know, live in the present or just enjoy it? Because I've got that at the moment.
Yeah.
With everything that's going on, they're like, "Oh, why don't you just take a day off?"
I think it depends on the person.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the person. If there's someone, like my dad's a great example. I reckon my dad's like the best guy on the planet. Like, he's so secure and emotionally stable and self-aware and intelligent. And he's a great lover. He's a great father. He's everything. And if he says to me, like, you know, you should think about what's outside of work, or you should like go and explore some other things, or whatever it is, like, oh man, I pay attention. Because he knows. I can see that he knows. But if someone my age or older or whatever it might be, and they seem insecure, like, no, I probably won't take the advice. Maybe there's a nugget there to listen to, but I'll just feel like we're misunderstood. Like, we don't understand each other. And so it really depends on the person. And I think the job that we have as young people who don't have a lot of responsibility yet is to surround yourself with all of those people who can give that good advice, that when you do have responsibility, you know, you act in the right way and you respect it. Like, you respect the responsibility that you hold.
As a kid who's just turned 23 and recently landed himself in the Forbes under 30 and 30, this is what it looks like in practice. I invested over $4,000 in me going to therapy, more than $2,000 invested in 88 books, mostly non-fiction, and hundreds into storytelling and public speaking courses. I couldn't thank myself enough for this change in mindset. Instead of investing in publicly listed companies, I invested in myself. I bet on myself and took control of my life.
Hell yeah.
What does it feel to write those words?
Oh, I love it. It's everything I stand for. You know, I was a investor and I was obsessed with financial freedom as a kid growing up. Always been obsessed with financial freedom, saving money. And I remember when I started working full time, you know, and I earned $60,000 a year, I would save half of my paycheck. I'd save about $2,500 a month, and I wouldn't I'd just put it away, and I'd invest it straight into the S&P 500, because I knew if you invested $2,500 a month in the S&P 500 in 25 years, you'll retire.
Yeah.
You'll be financially free. And that was my obsession. And I did that right through until we had an idea for a company. And I realized that, you know, there's actually a lot more that you can do with that $2,500 a month. Like, instead of investing it into other people's businesses and looking for their 10% a year net return, what happens when you invest $2,500 a month into your personal development and your growth and being a human? And the results will shock you. Like, wow. You know, if you're looking for an outsized win, you need to practice and study and work hard and do your reps, and a lot of that requires funding. And I remember it being such an absurd thing to look at, like, you know, I think therapy's it's like $270 a session, you know, for an hour. And it's super expensive. And I always thought, like, well, you know, I could invest that money, or what could I buy with that? And even after the first session, you're like, damn, like, you know, I'm not getting heaps out of this. And then you realize after 18 months of going, like, the compound of that, of like just putting $4,000 into your mental health and being self-aware and analyzing situations that you've been in and understanding who you are, oh man, I'd spend 30. Like I'd spend all of the money that I have in my savings to be who I am right now. And a lot of that is because of the work that I put in. No one becomes awesome by just like doing nothing. I always describe it as if you're, extreme outcomes require an extreme amount of work. Extraordinary outcomes require an extraordinary amount of effort. And I've always been looking for an extraordinary outcome. So I better put in an extraordinary amount of effort.
You're inspiring me, brother. I find it interesting that you said in another conversation you wish you had the idea that you had in 10 years' time.
Yeah. Well, that came from this thing where the older you are, the more likely you're going to be successful in business, right? And that was a lot of why, like that investment into myself, those books, those mentors, the public speaking courses, a lot of that comes out of like an anxiety that I won't win, that I won't succeed, that I'll have this opportunity and I won't be able to execute and get the outcome that we could because I'm not smart enough.
You described it as like an intense fear of not reaching my full potential.
Exactly. I wanted to guarantee the win. And I think if I was 10 years smarter, yeah, it'd probably be more likely, like would probably do a better job. But I made sure that I could learn as much as I possibly could in 24 months before we started this thing so that the gap would be smaller between like the experience you'd accumulate over that period of time and what I did. And to kind of touch on that for like if there are any entrepreneurs listening, especially young ones, people have asked me before, do you think it's a superpower being your age? And I still describe it in that way where I think I'd be better off if we had this 10 years later. You can't change the circumstances though. But there is a superpower of the fact that we're young and we're inexperienced. And it's a lot easier to bash into the walls of life and change things and manipulate it and like not accept that the world is the way it is when you're younger than when you're older, because like I'm less used to it. I've worked for people like in a knowledge worker environment for 2 years. I've had 2 years of like management and people telling me that things are the way that they are and how to do things. And it's like, it's a insignificant amount of time where when I'm running now, I do things my own way. Like no one's really, there are things that guide me, but I took all the best parts, and a lot of maybe the negative stuff that is just like a societal expectation, the way that things have always been done. They never stuck to me because I didn't do them for long enough. But maybe in 10 years, and I look at other founders that are slightly older, and I think they carry the burden of doing things, of habits, good and bad. And I don't have a lot of that.
I saw you say something that was pretty eye-opening. It said, sometimes I'll find myself complaining to my friends about it and then I'll quickly reel back in and saying, actually, those feelings are bullshit. I would feel worse if I wasn't like this.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky.
Yeah.
There's so many complainers out there, man.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here with you now and complaining about the isolation and the loneliness and feeling unrelatable. And I have that conversation so much with friends. It's like, I feel different and it sucks and it's hard and I struggle to connect with people. But the reality is like, I want to be this person. I want to be that great guy. I want to feel really secure and be emotionally intelligent. And if that means I don't relate to people, then damn, I wish more people were like that. Like I need to meet the people who are like that. And so it's a silly thing to complain about. And it's like, is it a problem or is it a puzzle? Like, I think my loneliness, my struggle to connect isn't a problem. It's just a puzzle. Like, we'll figure it out.
Do people think they understand you when they connect with you online? Like what I said before, like I feel like I know you, but having this chat today to you, it's like barely scratching the surface.
Yeah, I don't think so at all. People, I think people, it's one of the worst things about posting stuff on the internet. You know, I both love and I hate it that, you know, people make up assumptions about you and they think they know everything, and they like, I post very open and honest and vulnerable things, but I still write and post in a way that I know is engaging for others to read, and that like a stranger could read it and understand a little bit, and like they don't need, you know, they have enough context to get it and engage with the post. And that just means you won't. And you'll never know me until you sit down and have a yarn. I had this message, and I posted about this recently, but there was a founder that I met for coffee in Sydney, founder of a brand, and I met to sell him our software and just to connect. It's like quite early on in our journey. You know, we didn't really have any customers and that type of thing. And we got along really well. We made good friends. He supported us. He advocated for us. Like, it was amazing. Built a relationship. And I went to Los Angeles to grow our business. And I did a podcast, and I was in a podcast studio, and it was quite high quality. Like, it wasn't super scrappy looking. Put it up on the internet.
Wasn't this?
Hey?
It wasn't this.
This is far from scrappy. And he sent me a message on LinkedIn. He sent me my post to me, meaning to send it to someone else to talk behind my back. Yeah. And he said, increasingly disliking this guy. I think it's the lisp situation that's going on.
Saw that, man.
And he sent it to me, and you know, the first thing I did was like, I just made sure I could get on the phone call with him so I could take the feedback. Like, I could understand what he actually meant. And we got on the phone, and he said, you know, I just feel like you're not that same kid that I met like 3 months ago. Like, you know, you seemed so like down to earth, and you had all these great intentions and all these types of things. And it was just like, he was telling me who I am. He was like trying to tell me that I'm not that person. He was like effectively on the phone telling me that I'm cocky, and I've lost my way, and I'm not very Australian, like not like the whole like tall poppy thing is probably how I'd like break it down into. And I was listening there, and I was taking the feedback in a way of like, okay, I'm presenting myself online in the wrong way. And I think he was probably wrong, but that was how I like looked at it. I was like, okay, I need to like reevaluate my posts and look at them and like wonder where that image is getting pushed. But the most frustrating thing was just like you just don't know me at all. Like, you just don't. Like, if you knew me, you'd just never describe me as that. You know, if you knew me, you'd never describe me as any of those ways. You'd describe me as like sensitive and emotional and introspective and down to earth and well-intentioned and all of these different types of things, like far from what you're pushing back. And I think there's a lot of that. I think there's a lot of that online. And it was kind of cool to get it expressed, to really feel it, like to understand, oh, wow, you know, people, I'm going to put things out. The audience is going to grow. People are going to think things about me, and often they'll be wrong. And I can't change that.
You definitely can't.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't.
It's a byproduct.
Exactly right. I remember you saying the posts that you cared about, or the ones that go the best, are the ones you get nervous about.
Hell yeah.
Why is that?
Oh, I mean, I get nervous and anxious when I'm vulnerable or when I'm doing something new, endearing, and those are really endearing things to read. Like, they stand out because most of the shit that exists on the internet is a reproduction of something else that they've seen, and they've turned it into their own way. And every once in a while, I'll put something out. Even still, I had it posting that post online. I still like will freak out because I'm like, I've never done this before. I haven't seen anything like this before. And it's very raw, Hamish. And you can't always express that. You know, you can't write a post like that every day. I can't have a conversation like that every day. Sometimes like these things come to you, these feelings or these experiences, and the way they made you feel, it's like so unique. And those posts do great because people like new things. I think people get to know me another layer deeper when I post those, and that's obviously a rewarding feeling to feel like you understand someone more. And I guess that's the journey. You know, I do this thing called Building in Public, where I share how we build our business online. And it's not about the numbers and how the company's growing. It's more about how it all makes me feel. Because I think I'm posting online to have people understand me better and, know me as a person. And so I guess like what my Building in Public is like, my dream is that every single week you get to know me a little bit better. And over some period of time, like, you have a really good representation of, mind you, like, still what I want you to know. 'Cause you shouldn't be sharing your whole self online. Like, you don't need millions of people to understand the intricacies of you as a person. But I want to share things that, shape other people that were like me and had lost their way, but had a lot of potential. I want to make sure that they go on the same journey in their own way and feel inspired by it and know what actions to take and look to me as a mentor and reach out to me for advice so that in 10 years, 15 years, I can say, like, I mentored that guy and he's now doing really cool stuff. Like, I want to feel like I made an impression on people.
Well, I reckon you're doing that. And I reckon people talk about the negatives of social media all the time, but it's a good thing that we've connected as a result of it, because I was impacted by what you were doing for weeks.
Yeah.
If you get up in the morning and you think the future is going to be better, it's a bright day. Otherwise, it's not.
Yeah.
Sounds like that's exactly what you just said.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and I think to that point of every morning I wake up and I know that I'll be good. That's what that is, right?
That's powerful, yeah.
Every single morning for the last 5 years, I wake up and I'm not fearful of the future. Like, I know I'll be okay because I have everything in my wheelhouse to be okay. And we all do. We all do. Like, it's all there. Because being good, like, just being good, like, comfortable, your Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And obviously this is accounting for, like, privilege and things like that. But, the majority of the people that aren't in these, like, underprivileged situations and have enough resource, like, that hierarchy of needs is right there sitting in front of you. And so, like, why be scared of the future? Like, you're going to be good. You just have to do a few small things.
I asked the question to someone, are you afraid that you'll always want more? It sounds like that isn't the case with you.
Nah. Fuck no. Like, that is, like, the single biggest piece of work that I ever did and that I shout to the heavens is that point of building a $20 million software company. Like, that is both a number, a financial number, but it is the outcome that I pinpointed as exactly where I would have enough for what I wanted from my life to set me up. I didn't need any more. If I had more, I'd just have more nicer things. And I'd already have a lot of nice things. We sold this company for $20 million. And I think it's so important that you set restrictions on that. I have friends who are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And you know what they say to me? They say there's $5 trillion in the world. How can I get as much of that as possible? And that, like, I can't live like that. I can't live like that. It doesn't sound, to me, that doesn't sound like me being a really happy, the best person in 10 years' time.
It doesn't end.
No, exactly. There's levels to this shit. There's layers to it. Like, people talk about, you're in Australia and then you go to the US and suddenly it's like, whoa, there's levels to this. Like, yeah, there is. Those levels will go and go and go and go and go and go and go until you're like Xi Jinping and Putin, like, maybe you don't want to get to the top level. If I'm on, level 1 now and I already feel disconnected and isolated, like, it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. Like, man, what percentage of the world are millionaires? What percentage of the world are 100 millionaires? Like, you really start shortlisting the amount of people that are in the same situation as you. And while, like, that's fine, like, you can be with friends with people that are in different situations, it'll hit a point where, like, you probably can't. Like, you're a little bit too disconnected. The whole, like, I don't know what the price of milk is kind of thing. You're a little bit too far gone where, what do you talk about? There's nothing, like, to relate on. We're completely different people because of our financial circumstances. And I want to make sure, like, while I want to live a really great life and be comfortable and be secure financially, I want to make sure I still have a really big, like, pond to swim around in and interact with people and make friends and eat together and all these types of stuff.
It's a simple life, man.
It is a simple life. Because, I mean, I don't know. I'm anxious. Like, I'm an anxious guy and I go to therapy and I think about all these things a lot because I'm deeply concerned about failing at the simple life, or like, you know, not really loving it and enjoying the next 80 years that I have on this planet. But you do have to come back to the fact that it's relatively simple. Like most things, like business, you know, you need to feed yourself, take care of your body, connect with people, love people, be yourself, improve, feel like you're progressing, put a roof over your head, have a family, enjoy progressing them, make them the best people they can possibly be. Like, you know, is that rocket science? I don't think so. Is trying to build rockets? Like, that's rocket science, you know. I'm quite content with enough, and I'll progress in different areas, and I'll never stop. I won't stop working, but I'll just like shift what that focus is and do it, like try and work in a way that connects with more people and goes back to like the core principles of enjoyment. You know, we all need to feel like we're progressing, but I don't think, at least, I mean, I'll reevaluate it when I reach that point where I'm at that point where financial like shouldn't be motivating me anymore because I've got enough. You know, I won't be influenced by different scales of wages or whatever it might be, or financial outcomes. But I think if you have enough money where you no longer have to worry about anything and you know you've got enough for the rest of your life, and you look at what you want to do next and it's not influenced by a financial outcome, I don't think you would choose to go build another like profit delivering company that doesn't have like social impact or something like that, right? Yeah. Doesn't like progress society in a really like meaningful and compelling way. I think I'd probably do something else. Teaching is what I always describe. Like I said, like I know what I want to do after this, and it's teach.
What did you say? It makes me a better person, a better storyteller, and a better founder.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think teaching people and having conversations where you give advice in like a considerate and careful manner, you know, like we're doing right now, you learn a lot about yourself, whether it's like something spills out of your mouth and you realize it's like, that's what you stand for. It's almost like, it's like journaling. Like therapy is like journaling because you're talking about it. You're talking about all these things and you start to uncover what you really care about and what matters to you and what has affinity with other people and what actually resonates and what's correct and inspirational. And the more of those conversations you have, like the more you'll learn. And that's that whole point of just like we as people, like the whole, I'm committed to mastery of the game of life. I'm committed to mastering this. And that means I will think and I'll practice and I'll study and I'll test and I'll experiment and I'll think some more and I'll work some more. And, you know, teaching's part of that. You know, teach and evaluate it and do it better the next time and do it better the next time. And suddenly you will have built this like army of people that remember you and care for you. And maybe you can phone them up, or maybe they tap you on the shoulder one day or one morning you wake up and you get a message in your DMs saying like, what you said really impacted me. Maybe it's 2 years down the line. They go, I attended like the talk you did at our university and you inspired me to do X, Y, Z. And this is where I am now. And that day will be one of the best days of my life. And I want to get a message like that every single day. So that every day is the best day of my life. Every day, like someone tells me that I made an impact, and not just I made an impact, like you made an impact on me. I actually actioned the insights and I'm really happy with where I am now. And I'm proud of who I am. And like, you're a part of that journey. you know, you kickstarted that journey, you reshaped it, you helped me pivot, whatever it might be. That's the dream. That sounds like a pretty awesome life. Like that sounds awesome. Like that sounds like the happiest I'll ever be. It sounds way better than anything else I could possibly dream up. So that's why I chased that.
I can't wait to have another one of these conversations with you again in the future.
Hell yeah.
It's going to be good, man.
I'll be way cooler.
This has been awesome, man.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the steak.
That was really good. We
Yeah.
didn't even film any of that. Well, we got it on footage, but no one listening to this will see it, unfortunately. I'm very glad I reached out to you on LinkedIn because this has been, you talk about teaching. Like this is one that I'm going to have to, I'll go back and listen to every conversation, but I feel like this is going to have to be one that I go back and intensely detail and potentially write notes. I've never actually I only write notes on the actual conversation, but not actually like the information with him. Yeah, what I felt, yeah. Which I think would be good things to start doing.
It is. I think understanding how things make you feel is like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah,
that's where the nuggets are.
I've got a quote to end it, mate. This is all about you. If I could send 18-year-old Hamish one message, it would be thanking him for reading that article and setting this wildly ambitious goal. It changed my life. It was the best piece of work I've ever done and maybe will ever do. He set a goal, thought about what the journey would look like to achieve it, and committed to it.
There's something crazy about knowing that I wrote that and I put that out on the internet. And at the time, I didn't think it was anything that impactful. It was just like something I wrote and put out into the world, or something I felt and I expressed it. And I just can't wait to read all of those posts back in like 5 years' time. This gives me this like dialogue with myself of what I care about and what I think. And like hearing that now, like it's just a thought I put out on the internet, and it's just like so true. Like, I'm glad I think that. I'm glad I thought that at that time. Clearly I was clearly I'm a happy boy,
You're only getting happier, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks so much for your time. This has been amazing.
Cheers.
Appreciate you, man.